You mentioned humour, and I really want to talk about humour. You are a funny person. Your husband was a funny person. You have written humorously about subjects that have nothing to do with this sort of level of trauma and grief, but you've also injected humour into your writing on this subject. And I want to read a quote back to you. It's always horrible when people read it.
Oh, what are you going to read? Go on.
It's happened to me a number of times and I want to shut down, but I think it's important we explore this. You wrote in The Guardian, when you find yourself surreptitiously joking with your dead husband, the answer is pretty obvious. Not much. In lieu of any rationalism, comedy can be a liberating tool in times of grief, a way to echo and mirror the absurdity of death itself. And believe me when I say it often feels painfully absurd.
Yes.
Let's start with that. Death as an absurdity. What do you mean by that?
Well, it just feels absolutely ridiculous. And I still have these thoughts now, so many years down the line, of how can somebody actually, can you see this plant? Can you see this plant that grows all the way across my kitchen? It's amazing. This plant is very special to me. I bought this plant when Pat was in the hospice. I'm very attached to this plant. I don't have pets. I don't have children. This is my baby that I've watched grow. How can this plant exist and have grown all the way across this kitchen, that Pat and I bought this kitchen together? And yet, you know, my partner and my mate has died. Things like that can kind of like kernels in your mind that can just kind of like start to sort of sprout in your head, because it does seem really ridiculous that they were both in existence at the same time, and now he's not here, but this thing is. And that's what I mean about the absurdity, is that whether someone dies suddenly or it's very protracted, like with Pat, I think that is the same, in that it can seem kind of crazy that they vanished almost. You know, the day after Pat's death, you know, the sun comes up, everyone gets up, they go to work, and this incredible, astonishing, beautiful person has gone. And you kind of have to, like, you know, figure out a way to, you know, carry on with your days afterwards, and try and mimic some semblance of everyday life. But, you know, you just do want to like pull down the blinds and stay in bed and just be in a darkened room. And over time, you know, that has obviously softened. But I do still have those days where, you know, and I still talk to him. I still joke with him sometimes, because, you know, like when you're in a couple and you have like your own little language or little, like, you know, things that you say to each other and little jokes, you know. And sometimes I will be reminded of a joke that we had, and I sort of have a little laugh with him in my head. And I sometimes wonder, you know, is he here? Is he around me? Can he hear me? Can we still communicate? I have no way of knowing, but what I do know is that like I carry him in me, and you know, the conversation is ongoing, and I think it will be for the rest of my life. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And if we're talking about hope, you know, I often describe Pat as the air. Again, we're going to go back to the elements, and this is what I mean, is like that, it's that the elements are the best way that I can talk about Pat and grief for me, is that he is the air around me. And, like, you know, some days, you know, on the bad days, it can feel like a real gale, and I'm sure we've all experienced that, where you feel knocked off your feet. Other days it feels quite gentle, quite reassuring. Other days I can barely feel the wind at all, and I feel guilty. I feel guilty that it doesn't feel like that gale anymore. And that can be very hard to deal with as time goes by, because you'll get more of those days where it feels very gentle. And it feels like that person is maybe drifting too far away from you.